Hello, Sarah. Welcome to this week's podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Donna. It's such an honour to be here.
I'm very excited to share you. So what I would like asking everybody when they hop on is, what's your elevator pitch? What do you do? What's your passion? Why have I got you on here today?
Yeah. So I'm a somatic sex and relationship coach and educator, and I'm working majority with couples now,
Right.
and specifically new parents, because
Very
I've just
important.
gone through the journey of
Yeah.
of growing and birthing my first
Yep.
little bubba. And so I've been deep in that postpartum period and navigating the intimacy drift that happens
Yep.
in that time. And so, yeah, my focus is now on supporting parents through that journey and through reconnecting.
It's so
Yeah.
important and it's just not talked about. So when I
I
found
know.
you, I'm like, how, again, the universe helped me find you. But it just doesn't get talked about unless you're in your sort of your close-knit friends and we sort of joke about it. But the change in the dynamics of the relationship and us as individual humans, being the mum and the dad or whatever, and trying to navigate back to each other and also often pushing a baby out of your vagina. you know, that's always a little scary, isn't it? To want to have even the thoughts of having intimacy because it's such a big change in our lives as a woman, particularly. So, yeah. So, how old's
Totally.
your how old?
He's 9 months now.
Oh, cute,
9 months, yeah.
cute
Just
age.
took his first step.
Oh, did he? At 9 months?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah.
He'll
Yeah,
be
yeah. He doesn't like being a baby. He's
yeah.
keen to get going.
He's keen to get going. Yeah. So run me through. So, what is a somatic sex? What's that? Explain to me what that is,
Yeah.
coach.
So soma is the body.
Yep.
Yeah. So somatic means body based.
Okay.
So yeah, essentially I like working with the body. I do, my sessions are a mix of everything. We do talk therapy things as well, but I'm a firm believer in we need to come into the body and feel the stuff that we haven't felt
Mhm.
to be able to move past different
Oh,
blocks.
definitely. And it's
So yeah, some of the processes and practices that I do with my clients are, just getting them in their body. Because I mean, obviously, we need to be in our body,
yeah.
right, to enjoy intimacy and to enjoy sex. So,
Mm.
it sort of makes sense. And then, yeah, coach, I guess, is supporting people to move towards a goal.
Yeah.
And for in my eyes as well, to be able to move forward towards our goal, I think often the reason that we can't reach our goal or we're having challenges reaching our goal on our own is because there's past stuff that's
Oh,
sort of getting in the way. So
absolutely. Absolutely. And
so
and
my
that's
sessions are a sort of mix of therapy, going back into the past,
mhm,
repairing what wasn't repaired, and
mhm,
then so that we can move towards,
yes.
yeah, some
You know,
delicious
it's
intimacy.
delicious. And the thing is, it's really important for marriages. And again, there's times like often, that yeah, it's sort of talked about as like a duty, like it's usually the men that quite needed of more. I mean, I'm just typicalizing now, and not through your journey, but typically the men want it more than the women. At that, in my family, my friends, some women really enjoy it, but yeah, it's like why, I suppose, what's the block of why women look at it as a chore sometimes rather than something that's needed for us,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah, such a great question. I think a common dynamic that I sort of see with couples is, yeah, there's a man has a higher sex drive or a higher libido than the woman, but
Yep.
also like that it's very rare to meet a couple that have the same
Yeah.
libido, like
Yeah.
always same level, right? It's
Yep.
a libido like everything else, it waxes and wanes. So
Yep.
it's pretty hard to line it up, and we all have the perfect sort of
Yeah.
like same sexual desires and
When you
want to
first
have
meet
it at the
it,
same frequency.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, exactly. In that first honeymoon period for
mm,
sure. But um and so yeah, I think often what happens is as a woman changes and grows. I mean, we're cyclic beings, right? So even just like in a month that our libido can change as well. But especially through pregnancy and once like a new mother who's sleep deprived, like a sleep deprivation kills your libido,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, obviously, like on a biological level, that makes sense, right? We don't have the energy to get into it.
That's right.
So I think what can happen is perhaps the man isn't educated, or there isn't like an attunement going on with the couples where he knows how to open her, and there's an open discussion around what she needs to open. And so maybe the initiating of the sex is not being received, and it can feel like pressure to a woman. And then when she feels pressured, like that's like the opposite of what a woman needs to be able to open. Like as a woman, we need a lot of safety, physically, but also emotional safety and connection to open sexually. And so, if there's like pressure, then she'll just shut down her sexuality. And I think also what happens is a lot of women have said yes many a times in the past when her body was actually a no.
That's right.
Right. So on some level, we're all sort of carrying those sort of imprints of trauma, if you want to call it, or those times where we've gone against, there's times where we've gone against that bodily knowing. And so women can be quite, and then I guess when she goes on a bit of a sexual healing journey, or a bit of, I'm going to call it sexuality development journey, she has to, or when she comes into a really safe relationship, then she has to meet all of those feelings, all of those boundary ruptures that she may have ruptured herself, ruptured her own boundaries. So I mean, there's more.
Oh yeah, I know.
Short answers. Many things. But a common dynamic is what I can see is, so then a woman is quite afraid to even have platonic intimacy with her partner, because she thinks it's going to have to lead to sex, or there's a pressure to it to lead to sex, and then a woman just shuts off her affection. And once a woman shuts off affection and platonic touch, that's when you're in trouble. Right. Yeah,
definitely.
Because a man is also asking, often wanting sex, because that's his way of connection.
I know.
As a woman in this society, as a woman, we have a lot more platonic intimacy with other women. It's more socially acceptable for us to hug and touch women, not so much for men. So men often associate touch with leading to sex, or it being sexual.
Definitely. The dynamics are quite huge, aren't they, really? But really, it's not just about like I said, it's not just about the sex, it's about the relationship. It's about, for women particularly, we are emotional beings, and again, sort of stereotypical, men aren't as emotional as we are. they can be, they've just been conditioned not to be, I think. And so that's a big part, which is very frustrating for them at times, because they just want it. So the other thing that I was watching too on your page, because lots of fantastic tips and stuff on your page, is scheduling it in. So we ended up doing that, and a while back, because a psychologist friend, we were talking about it, and she said just schedule it in, so then the pressure's not on when it's going to happen, spontaneity. And because really, 3 kids, businesses, to be honest, I can't remember the last time I was spontaneous. I can't even speak today. Spontaneous. So we did, and it sort of it's continued on, so it's literally still happening. But you agree with that with busy lives, or
I think it's the only way, right? It's like we can't sure, spontaneity is amazing, and it does, fuel desire and passion and all the things. However, it's not possible when you're a busy parent, right? And if you're relying on spontaneity, which is often when, right, it's not just about, oh cool, we've got a spare minute. It's like, cool, we've got a spare minute, and we're both aroused and in the mood, and ready and wanting that, which is pretty rare, right? And so I often say, schedule it in. And I think some women can go, oh, but especially women, but men as well.
Oh, look,
what about if we don't want to
with it?
Feel like it?
It was more him. he was like not happy about it at the beginning, thinking, oh, we're losing something, but it's not. It's actually okay, because it's going to happen, and there's no pressure in between of, I'm sure he'd want more, but I think that was really good that I saw that there.
Yeah, nice.
So,
I think one thing that I do suggest with that as well, because it's like, even go another layer. It's like, take off the pressure of it having to be penetrative sex, right? And it's just schedule time for intimacy. Yeah, start with having a conversation. Talk about how you're not just how your day was, but go a little bit deeper. Like some questions that me and my partner asked, like, how's your heart feeling today? Just going a little bit deeper, meeting each other in like a little bit of an emotional connection, and then just exploring touch. And if that touch leads to like arousal, which leads to penetrative sex, like amazing, but that's not the goal of it, right? It's because I think sometimes, especially when we're navigating this like long period of like feeling quite sexually shut down after you've had a baby, which is very common for women. Even it's if they're not like, if they don't lose their libido on pregnancy, it's often like when they're a first time mum, right? That first 6 months, especially when you're navigating it all. So take that pressure off and just discover what feels good for you again. Like, I'm really passionate about talking to moms about their sexuality and the shift that happens for a woman sexually when she becomes a mother, because it does change. It does change. And this is also it's not being spoken about, right? And women, we have to give everything we've got to our baby, and we can sometimes forget about our own pleasure and our own joy. And even if you are prioritized, I know, right? Like even me, like I prioritize like my own time, like to go and work out and do things and spend time. And I feel like I still got to about 6 months and I'm like, I feel like this shell of a human. Like, who even am I? What am I like doing anymore? And I felt like I tried to prioritize it, but as a breastfeeding mom, it's really challenging, right? To have that time away from your baby.
It is. And like, that's the thing, like, I think back to it, and even now, like emotionally, if I'm emotionally drained from the children and we've got teenagers, it's just not on my mind. And, when you first become a mum, or you're a mum when they're little babies, breastfeeding isn't easy. Then they're feeding all day on you, and it just on the bottom of your list, where really it should be talked about more.
Totally.
We'd be happier if we started.
Well, that's it. And the thing is as well, like when you become a parent, there's so many more added stresses in your day, right? Like it can be actually quite stressful being a parent and having that responsibility and having to navigate the screaming child and all of the other things, the to-do list. And when we are stressed, we're not like even in a part of our nervous system where we are able to socially engage and connect, right? So our sex drive just gets shut off. But this is why it's actually really important to, I think, like, if there's anything you take away from this podcast, is like prioritize, find a way to have platonic intimacy with your partner. So non-sexual touch and exploration, right? Because this is actually like touching each other and exploring each other's body and exploring intimacy in this way without that pressure of needing to have sex actually helps us to come back into that part of our nervous system, the rest and digest. It helps us to regulate our stress, regulate our emotions, and feel connected to our partner.
And this is the biggest thing working in the industry that I don't even like calling it my business, because it's like my purpose in life with sleep. And having lived my life experience, I've lived a life, is, I forgot what I was going to say, that it's just not talked about. Like I said, it's not talked about. And then what I'm finding is a lot of couples are literally in different bedrooms, or the dad's on the couch, or, and I'm like, and it's getting more and more common, and they're just not having sex. And I'm not that old person to say you should, but if you want your marriage to have longevity, there has to be intimacy. There has to be. It's not, your marriage is not going to last, I wouldn't think, and I could be wrong, if there's not some kind of intimacy. It's like a human.
No, you're not wrong. Totally. And a lot of people, they don't. So this intimacy drift that happens when you first become parents, totally normal. Totally normal. But if you're prioritizing finding a way back to each other, and your child gets to school age and you're still disconnected, you're still not having sex, you're sleeping in another bedroom, you're not even like having much of a conversation besides the to-do list, then you're in strife. Yeah, it's going to like and the longer you stay in that, the longer you stay in that period of disconnection, the harder it is to come back.
Of course.
Yes.
And,
I read,
sorry, yeah, go.
I was going to say, I read a study the other day that said, I think it was like an American study that said, they did a study of people and they found that like on average, couples, like married couples, long-term married couples spend 35 minutes a week talking. And it's just about the to-do list or what the kids need. It's like 5 minutes a day. I'm like my partner works full time and I still spend probably at least 2-3 hours talking to him a day.
Yeah, you'll see, this is the thing. This is where I like to keep it real too. Is, I've been married for 20 years and been together a long time, 24. And there've been to absolute times of disconnect. Like there is no doubt, like disconnect and, is it going to work out? That's normal too. Like it is very normal to have ups and downs in relationships, like who you marry or who you fall in love with. You're not the same people in 20 years. You've done growth or you haven't done growth, you've done healing, whatever. But it is coming back to try and keep that. If you love that person, there's going to be times you're not going to like them. And so that's why I often joke that we're still together, because we've done a lot of work together and we're in a good space at the moment. But many times I was like, oh, this is not feeling good. But I can see that if it never got out of that cycle, and the kids are bigger now, why women leave or men cheat or women cheat, like you're sort of in the thick of it with your kids. But you've got to keep connected with that person that you love if you want it to have longevity.
Totally. I honestly don't know how people have long-term marriages without doing the work.
Yeah.
And they're actually fulfilling marriages, right? Like, cool, have a marriage, but if you're not fulfilled and you're like needing to go outside of your marriage all the time and get your connection needs met, like that to me isn't a happy marriage. But if you want to have a happy long-term marriage and family, right? Because your kids are looking and learning from you. They're picking up all of the little cues around how to connect, and they're like looking at, the affection that you have or don't have with your partner. They're learning about relationships, about intimacy through you. If you don't prioritize and like work on your stuff and come back together, then it's not possible.
It's not possible.
It's not possible to have like a fulfilling long-term partnership, I think, without investing in it. And that doesn't need to be money, like time. Quality time.
And like I say to people, because like I share all my stories, is, and I've said this to many people, is if you have that glimmer of love still and respect, work on it. It's worth it, and the thing is, we've been through some pretty tough times, and then the kids being teenagers, that really comes out. But we went to counseling and family counseling, and we're all in such a better place. And if you still have that love and respect at the lowest times, just keep working on it, I reckon, is my biggest advice.
I love that. I think it's so true. And it's such an important message to normalize going to therapy and getting a coach and getting support, because, I think it's still like, some people still find it really hard to acknowledge that they need support. And I think a lot of people give up. They give up and they just move on to the next relationship and break up a whole family without actually trying. Without actually putting in energy and going and like committing to therapy and support. And it breaks my heart.
Me too. And I'm 48 and my husband's 50. And so, the last 5 years has been lots of separations. And I can see how, like, again, what we've been through with our family, I can see how a lesser man, and again, not having a go at men, would have run away, like packed their bags and sprinted away, but he did so much work on understanding like our conditioning as children, so many things. And if you can be a team and work through it with intimacy, then it's worth it.
Yeah. And I'm just going to assume, do you have mostly women listen to your podcast? Yeah. And one thing that I hear is that a lot of the time, women are like, how do I get my man to start doing the work? Right. Yeah. And I just want to say, we have to lead the way as women.
Yes.
Like women are so much like further ahead on their their personal development journey, on their spiritual journey, or whatever you want to call the journey. They are so much more ahead. and we have to lead the way. And when I first met my partner, he'd done some work and whatnot, but he hadn't done as much work and been like deep in the personal development space like I have. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I want that. I want a man that's like done all the work already and blah, blah, blah. Like, and I was like, oh, I got really annoyed. Like, I was like, oh, why do I have to like lead all the time? I have to lead in the uncomfortable conversations. I have to lead in like, getting outside support and all the things. It's worth it. It's like, it's only been 3 years now that we've been together, and I'm noticing I don't have to lead the conversations anymore. Sometimes, sure, sometimes I do, but now he comes in the door and says, babe, how's your heart today? And I'm like, cool, all right, it was all worth it. Like, it's okay to lead. It doesn't mean that he's any lesser than. It just means I get to show him what I desire in relationship, and that's totally okay. And he has a choice to meet me in that or not.
Right. So you grow together. And like at times at the counselling, I remember saying, I feel like I'm dragging the horse to water, like that old saying. And he goes, well, if the horse stays there long enough, he will drink. And I'm like, that's what he's done. I feel like I had to lead all the time with the counselling. Come on, we're not doing well enough here. We need to go to counselling. And he did. And he kept growing and healing. And that would be the biggest thing. I would love for men to listen to my podcast, but don't know. It's doable, but again, excuse me, people don't want to talk about counselling because it's like we're weak or, we're broken or whatever. Everyone's broken. Everyone's got stuff to heal from, everyone. And so it's just normalizing,
Yeah, there's no perfect relationship. I think that's one thing that I've really learned on this journey, is there is no perfect relationship, and anyone that you're looking up to that has a relationship that looks perfect from the outside, if they've got an amazing, healthy, thriving relationship, that's because they've done the work and they're doing the work. Yeah, they're maintaining that. They've moved through the parts of them that create disconnection and the, dysfunctional cycles. Like, they've put in the energy and the time and the years, and the money. And they've, it is. It's not easy.
We could have done all the work and just as easily not worked out. That can happen, so the reality is, everything takes work. And getting back to being intimate, I never would have thought about him getting out of bed. Like, for whatever reason, I just thought that was probably our last bit of connection once I had a first baby, like it was the only sort of, I don't know, not sleeping in the same bed as a big
I was going to say, do you mean moving into another room?
Sorry. The husband's.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
Room,
Yeah.
I know through pure exhaustion and stuff, I know that has to happen. There's no doubt about that. But it's important if you want longevity, like we keep saying. So I could talk about this all day. So how can people work with you if they're feeling like this might be something that they would like to delve into?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Instagram, which is the.Sarah without a H, so SARA.Stone. Or my website is www.sarastone.org.
And I'll put all that in the show notes.
Yeah, great. And you've got some things coming up, actually. I'm not sure when you're going to release this, but I'm going to run at the end of this year. So we're in 2023. I think in September, October, I can't remember the exact date now. I haven't officially launched it, but it's all locked in. I am going to run 3 intimate date nights online for couples. And this is amazing for parents because one thing that I always say is like, have regular, weekly, if you can, date nights. And obviously, if you're a parent and you don't have support, especially like family support, this is really hard, right? Not only is it challenging, like living on one wage and like, sometimes the money's tight when you're, fresh parent. But also just having that time to go out, like having a support system, someone to come and mind your bubba. So have a date night at home. And this can look like putting your kids to bed and just sitting and having dinner, leaving the TV off, connecting, maybe asking each other some questions and just going a little bit deeper in your conversation. And then, you explore some intimacy, explore some touch, talk about desires. I think sometimes people are like, I don't know the questions or I don't know the practices. And this is why I want to run these date nights. I'm going to run 3 of them, and they're going to be like 90 minutes. And yeah, it'll be like, they'll start at 7:30. So hopefully the kids are in bed by then, and come and connect. And I'm just going to guide you through. It'll start off with like a gentle connection practice, mainly like talking and building emotional intimacy. And then towards the end of the call, there'll be touch, and we can explore boundaries and the energetics of giving and receiving, and sensuality and energetics, and just
I might
exploring with
join
your
it.
partner
I
and
might
doing it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
come
sounds
along. I'd love to have you there.
yeah,
And
that
so
sounds
you can either just join one, or you can join all 3 of
oh,
them.
that's good.
So I can, once that's launched in the next few weeks, I can send you a link as
Yeah,
well,
great.
and
You
you can
probably
pop it in the show
look
notes if you
out
like.
in the show notes. Yeah. Now you do one-on-ones with couples?
Yeah, I do couples coaching. I got a couple of different packages from like 6 weeks to 4 months, and the 4-month one I work with them individually as well. Um, and what was I going to say in there? Oh, and also this another new offering that I'm doing is a relationship checkup.
Mm,
So yeah, so you fill out the details, pay and whatnot, and then I send you get an email to register for an app. And then there's a questionnaire, which has a lot of questions, about 300 and something questions.
wow.
But they're pretty easy. They're just a multiple choice,
Yeah.
so it shouldn't take too long. And then you fill that out before our session. And then on the session, I essentially go through so I'm the only one that gets all the results for that.
Yeah.
And then I assess basically the relationship, the strengths, the weaknesses, where you need to work on, and all the things. And I can like give you I can tell you all of that, and just give you a bunch of things to work on. And if you want, then you can be supported by me to implement all of those changes. But there's no
Great.
pressure in that either.
No, and I think the
So
thing is, we're in a, such a fast-paced world and disposable world. Not saying that leaving a marriage is anyone's doing that easily, but it's very easy when things get tough to give up. And
yeah,
so it's good, really important that we're not just talking about intimacy, like you said, penetrative. Is that the right word?
yeah.
But emotional, touching and stuff. It's really important for the whole lot for us as humans.
Totally. And I think, like you said, because we're not speaking about this, like sex is still quite taboo in our culture, and there's even a lot of couples out there that like either don't have the framework to talk about this, or it's like too vulnerable, and or maybe in the past when you've spoke about sexuality things, there's been triggers.
Yeah,
I know for me and my partner, it's taken us it's taken us a lot of conversations to get to a point where we can have a comfortable conversation about sex and desires and things that aren't working for us,
yeah.
without one of us feeling a little bit
I know.
hurt,
Well,
right? Yeah,
yeah, we just don't. And the thing is, well, we have, and I might offend him or whatever, but for me, perimenopause, God, like we're sort of two different, like poor women is all I'm going to say. Like we've lived having babies and stuff, but then getting to this age, and then things down there change, and then your hormones change. So it's like, oh man, still keeping the fire alive if we
yeah.
can. Got to talk
I
about
love
it.
that you're talking about that, because I saw someone post about that the other day, that women are just not speaking about that perimenopausal time. And it's like,
Terrible.
and a lot of women yeah, it is. It's so normal. And a lot of women are struggling with it.
Yeah,
So like, I'm so
that's
here for you
yeah.
talking about that.
And that's where I've got to now on my platform and my business. And I didn't mean to, but I've done a lot of healing and work for 30 odd years. And I would never have shared these stories ever, even a few years ago. But I just feel over the last few years, me sharing, even if I get one mum or someone come back and say, that's how I feel today, then that is so amazing for me. So I'm not worried what people think of me. I'm not fearful of anything anymore. So I'm sharing my stories, because everybody's going to be going through it. It's like 100%.
Yeah,
Everyone's going to go through it.
totally.
And it's not just when your period stops. That's like, I think the easy part. It's like can be 8 or 10 years of hormonal changes in the peri. And yeah, it's not good.
Totally. I love that. And I'm the same. I share so openly. I was saying to my partner the other day, I'm like, private, non-private person, you know, like I hate living in suburbia. I have to live on land where no one can see me and I can be naked and I need my privacy.
Yeah.
Yet I jump online and share my intimate sex details with the whole world.
It's so funny, isn't it? But it's a really nice place to be confident enough in yourself as a person to be able to share the stories, because they're real stories. And no, even though there's so much going on our social media and stuff, it's actually made the world a bit more challenging to navigate, because there's too much information and it's not sharing the right stuff that needs to be talked about, you know? Anyway.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, thank you
One thing actually on that note that I feel quite passionate about, hopefully you can hear me okay. There's like a big storm coming through here and it's like pissing down with rain.
I can hear you.
Anyway, one thing that I was tuning in before this podcast around like what felt alive to speak about, because I actually haven't been, this is my first podcast interview since I've come back from having my baby, since I'm a mother. So
and you, like I said, very much how I don't know I found you, but you just did. And I found you and I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what needs to be talked about. And you'd be had been a new mum, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually about to launch my own podcast. I'm just still finalizing the name, and it's going to be for parents, and it's going to be all around sex and intimacy and
I love it.
all of this sort of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I was tuning in around like what felt really alive for me to talk about or share on this podcast. And one thing that I think that needs to be spoken about is just the changes that not only women and mums, but also fathers go through in their own connection to their sexuality through having a baby, right? And I think just the changes, like the lack of intimacy or the lack of sex, and can bring up a lot for people. I know for me, it actually sent me through. I've already been on a pretty deep sexual healing journey for a long time. However, like a whole nother layer came up and able to process through this journey of pregnancy and becoming a mother, which was I realized that I had really used my sexuality with men to get my needs met, you know, to feel secure, to feel loved, to feel desired, to feel like I'm enough. Right. And then on this journey of not having that available or not feeling like I'm confident in that, I've had to face all of those feelings of I'm not enough, or the fears of what about if my partner leaves me because I don't feel desirable right now, or I'm not available for sex. And so I think there's so many layers of that. And I spoke to my partner as well, and he's experienced different but similar things as well in his journey of not having sex with me, and had to face some deeper sexual sort of wounds within him as well. And not only are we navigating that, sorry?
No, but I just think about my husband and our journey together, and often it's always been not fought, but if there were sort of times where wasn't working, whatever, it could bring up him being quite angry, like an insecure thing of him, like again, like you were saying, like for men it's such a big connection for them. And so for women, because of course we want our needs met if we want to, but it's not our main thing usually, is it? Main connection is not just being intimate. Anyway.
I think it also depends on like our wounding, like our relationship trauma and wounding as well. I find that going into like speaking a little bit about attachment wounding, I find that if you're more avoidant, like if your attachment style is more avoidant, so you've got like secure and then avoidant and then insecure, anyway, so if you're more avoidant, you tend to just feel a little bit more like emotionally detached during sex, and like the aim for sex, or a goal in sex, if you want to call that, is more about just sort of feeling pleasure and getting off and just explore, like having a bit of a stress release as well from an orgasm. But if you're more anxiously attached, which has been my journey of overcoming anxious attachment, you can use your sex to feel like you're enough and to feel like you're worthy. And so when that is taken away, then you can be faced with all those feelings of like, I'm not lovable, is my partner gonna leave me?
definitely.
I'm not worthy unless I spread my legs and I'm
Yeah,
sexually available. Yeah.
definitely. Definitely. And, you know, I definitely would have gone through that knowing that, particularly my husband needs it. And most men need it, you know, like it is a need for
Yeah.
them. And I had that as pressure as well, always. Not that he pressured me or anything like that, but as a wife and a woman, and yeah, you know, your body changes and everything like that. It's like, yeah, fun times.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
thank
know
you.
what men actually need? They really need to feel
Yeah,
desired.
I do.
That's
Big
what they
time.
really want. They want to feel desired. Yeah. And they want to connect, like I mentioned. They don't have those resources of connection like we do. And so sex is just such a way to feel their partner and to feel desired. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Like I said, we'll put everything in the show notes for people to find you, but I'm very happy that I found you and sharing you with everyone. So I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
No worries. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Yeah, honey.